from this panel discussion, what do you think are the big new ideas? What are your parting thoughts? And what ideas do you think from this panel discussion will be going forward in the future panel discussions discussed in those locations?
This session was one of many sessions to test a concept that was developed by the World Economic Forum Council on the Future of Journalism, whether for journalism to survive need to adapt and reload in a new form. So from a gatekeeping function to a facilitator, moderator of a conversation where you bring diverse voices, especially on complex issues such as climate change. So I think that this session proved that the networked journalism concept may be valid, especially when you have very difficult and multi-layer issues such as climate change, because you can bring the different voices around. And if you have a public servant, a journalist, someone who can moderate this conversation based on a clear set of value and rule of engagement, then maybe we will be better off in the long term in understanding the context, the issue, and having given voices to those who usually don't have in this debate. So I think that was valid. A really good point was made by one of the participants, actually, because it was a very interactive session. We tried to bring on board everyone in the very spirit of the network journalism, including some great help from Twitter and the chief Twitter on our side. And the participants bring, and the Twitter contribution bring in the perspective of protection of journalists. So how do you protect the contributor to this discussion when do you have a live discussion, especially usually using internet or mobile communication, in view of contexts such as Pakistan was quoted, where the life of the contributor, him or herself, is at stake. And this was something that we had never discussed before and can be sensitive even in debating climate change if it goes against a particular government or a particular position from a very strong group, which could be a business group, or could be a political group, or any type of extremist group that doesn't like dissent. So this for me was very relevant, because when we look at the concept of network journalism, we try to analyze it under training point of view. So what kind of tools and training a professional journalist or a professional moderator needs. What kind of legal framework needs to exist in a certain country to make sure that journalists can do their work properly. What kind of business model, revenue stream, so how do we make this sustainable, who's going to pay for it? And then we also discuss about values and principles, a rule of engagement. And if all these different elements match together, then you have this rebooted profession of public servant serving the community with information and context to make them more informed. But we never discuss how do you protect this public servant, or how do you protect this journalist who is now moderating a conversation, so shouldn't be put in the spot, but if he's bringing, or her, are bringing views that are against the common view enforced by a dictator again, or an extremist group, what do you do to protect them, especially when you're doing live? And I think that was point taken. We didn't think about it, but it's very relevant. If you want an open conversation, especially live, especially online, you need to find a way to protect these sources.